Point 3, FromController concept. This concept is very important in Spring MVC framework. First, so let's learn the basic understanding background of this concept. Central role of controllers. First, we look at the general controllers, then FromController. So this FromController is different from the general controllers. It is a special controller. Okay, yeah. I drew figure before, yeah, the special controller. Yeah. Let's look at the general controllers first. First view of Spring controllers. In the Spring framework, or Spring MVC framework, more precisely, right? Yeah, because here we only use Spring MVC. Yeah. The features of a web application are built around controllers. Yeah. Around. There are many controllers, many features, so features built around, organized. The resources of this web applications are organized around controllers, yeah, in order to implement those features. Yeah. So usually one use case is implemented around one controller. Yeah. So one use case, yeah. All the resources needed for this particular use case is organized around one controller. Yeah. So usually, right? Yeah. All right. So that is the initial or early versions of Spring MVC framework. Yeah. In order to make the structure straightforward, yeah, easy to control by the programmers. But later, this structure is improved to get better efficiency. Yeah, because here, so one use case corresponds to one controller. If you have a large number of use cases, then you need a large number of controllers. So that way, using controllers is not very efficient. Yeah. So the new way, so one controller can do many use cases or many closely related use cases. So that's the current way. Yeah. Not one-to-one, one-to-many, one to a group of related use cases. So that is the current, more efficient way. Yeah. So you can imagine, we do not need that many controllers. One controller, actually, we can do large number of use cases, to make it more efficient. Yeah. All right. The resources needed for this use case. Yeah. So I just talked about connected. Yeah. Connected here. We say connect the resources. Another special term I used before, wiring, right? Wired, connected, wired, and controlled by the controller. So this is the general view on those controllers. Yeah. Next, let's look at the FromController concept. Yeah. The background. Yeah. The Spring framework, or more precisely, here I just write a simple way. More precisely, Spring MVC framework is built on top of the Java EE specification. Yeah. We know Java EE, it's a big platform. Java EE specific technology, we call it big platform. Yeah. Then on that platform, many different Java frameworks can be, plugged in, work together, to do many different features. Yeah. All right. Now, on that platform, how do you connect to that platform, right? So here you need to look at how to connect to that platform. Yeah. So you need some special component to do that connection. Yeah. So that is the FromController concept. Yeah. And another thing, it is running in the Java EE platform in the form of set of jar library files. So you can see we do not need to install any special software. To use a new technology, we just use a new set of jar library files. Okay, plug in, so you put in the right location. So later I can talk about those locations. You just put those jar library files at the right location, then you can use that particular technology. Yeah. All right. It uses the FromController design pattern. So here, this FromController is one special design pattern in Java EE as the entry point of the framework. Entry point. You need to get into the framework, right? Yeah. After getting to the Java EE platform, you're not using the framework, Spring MVC framework. Yeah. You need to go through entry point, that is the FromController, to get into the framework. So that is it's the role of the FromController. Okay. Then let's look at the properties of the FromController. First, the FromController pattern defines a single component. Only one. We only need one component sit at the gate of the framework entry point. Yeah. That is responsible for processing application results. All right, so the FromController, yeah, let me write this FC, okay, FromController. Yeah. It connects to many other controllers. Yeah. So here we say responsible for processing application requests. How to do processing? The FromController will dispatch, here. So we use the dispatch, the request, to different controllers, other controllers, many large number of other different controllers, regular controllers. Yeah, those regular controllers dispatch to one of the regular controllers to do the processing and return the result. Yeah. So that's the picture. Yeah. All right. Next. It is used as initial point of contact. Yeah. Initial point of contact. Contact what? Contact the framework, Spring MVC framework, for handling a request. Handling. So these we call it request handler. So each controller in that list we call the request handler. Okay, request handler. Each controller we have another name, request handler. Okay, so you have many request handlers. FromController will connect your request to one of the request handlers. Yeah. So that kind of relationship. Yeah. Next, a FromController centralizes functions such as handler mapping. Yeah. Now you need to have a configuration file. How do you do handler mapping, right? Yeah. So later we will talk about in another configuration file. Another special configuration file. So we will talk about that configuration file in our last video. Yeah, another configuration file. Yeah. Handler mapping. View selection. Different views. Because after the data processing for each request handler, you need to connect it to a view, a particular view to display the result data. So view also need to be configured in the handler mapping also, yeah, etc. Many other things, resources, different resources, database, data sources, all different things you need, yeah, and applies them consistently across all pages or views. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's the advantage, the centralized way. So here you can see the centralized in that special configuration file, in this configuration file. So centralized way, okay, in the configuration file. What is the advantage? Reduced amount of Java code, okay, embedded in the JSP. Yeah. Embedded in JSP. Yeah. All right, so here I just explain a little bit why reduce amount of Java code embedded in JSP. So if you do not use this way, the old way, before we use this, handler mapping, dispatching, this way, in the old way, in many JSPs, you need to do that dispatching request things. You need to do dispatching request things in different JSPs. So that's not efficient. That's not the centralized way. That is the distributed way. You have large number of JSPs. In many of those JSPs, you need to do request dispatching things. Yeah. Send to this JSP, send to another JSP, or servlet, call servlet, So you will do all those dispatching things, large amount of requests, dispatching work, code you need to do. Yeah. With this centralized way configuration, controller, view, map, when you configure in that way, then all the inside JSP dispatching code can be eliminated. You don't need those dispatching code anymore. Yeah. Distributed dispatching code anymore in your web applications. Yeah. So that's the one advantage. Another advantage, promote code reuse across requests. Yeah. Better than reuse by copy and paste. Yeah. So the code reusability, right? So this understanding, you need to have some experience. Yeah. If you get familiar with the framework, using it with some experience, then you can understand this point better. Yeah. All right. So here, yeah, before you go there, here I just give you some abstract explanation. Controller connect different resources, right? Resources, all right? So here, suppose we have many resources we need to use for a particular feature use case through controllers. Controller connect them, okay, in some way. So we call it wiring, right? So this is wiring. Wiring. So we wire many resources. Some of the resources JSPs, some of the resources JSP, some of the resources Java beans. Right? Yeah. Now, because we use this wiring way, right? Wiring. Okay? Yeah. So controller connect them and wire them. Yeah. Those Java beans highly reusable. Think about that. Those Java beans highly reusable. So when you go to different web applications, some of the Java beans, you can wire those Java beans to around different controllers. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. So in that way, you can see it's not a reuse by copy and paste, right? Yeah. You do not do copy paste. You use that whole Java bean class and wire those Java beans. Yeah. Although, so that's the ideal situations. Yeah, but in your real world applications, it could be complicated. Yeah, because when you move one Java bean to a different project, it is highly likely you need to modify the code. It is highly likely you need to modify the code. So think about that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that's the original design goal. Okay. Original design goal. The Spring designer, they want to achieve these goals. Yeah. All right. So that's the background of the controllers from controller concept. Yeah. So all right. So let me stop this video here. Yeah.